Hello, Movie Crusaders, and welcome to another episode of the Movie Crusaders Chat About. My name is Sean Wasserkrug. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. This is our second episode of this new show where we basically just talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about, whether it's something, movie-related, reviews, trailers, just straight-up movie news, or whatever the hell we want to bullshit about. This is this episode. We freestyle, free flow, however you want. Don't worry. If there's something important to topic, I will have a bookmark for it here, which was the longest thing that took me to do on the last episode. Was like 1,000 bookmarks of different things. But if you guys want to jump around and watch certain things, that's what this episode's for. Come out, hang out with us, talk, leave comments. Let us know what you guys thought about what we talked about today. Brian, how you doing before we get too far into this?
I'm doing good. After I got back from my trip where I hadn't watched a movie in a week, I made up for lost time. I watched like 8-9 movies in like 3 days. So I feel refreshed now, as well as finishing up some TV series too. So there you go.
Yeah, Brian was like, I'm watching my 8th movie in like 2 days. I'm like, dude, calm down. You don't have to watch them all right now. I was like, well, hopefully you got some good shit to talk about. And he's like, oh, I was like, okay, good. First thing we're gonna start off with, we so badly wanted to talk about this our last episode, and then because we had so much stuff to talk about, it wasn't until after we edited we were like, oh shit, we forgot to talk about this. Something happened, very sad, while we were on hiatus, and that was the untimely passing of Matthew Perry, which many people will know as Chandler Bing from Friends. I know him hardcore from that. He was hands down my favorite character. I think he was most people's favorite character on that show. But Brian and I, many times on this show, have praised and talked about Matthew Perry, not because of Friends, but because of other things, such as other TV shows and other films. And we felt that he's someone who is important in Brian and I's lives as a actor that we have loved and enjoyed for decades. And we wanted to take some time to talk about him real quick. Brian, I know, for me, most of my stuff is through Friends. You watched Friends, but you weren't like as much of it as me. You loved more of his actual, other stuff, correct?
Well, no, I was hardcore Friends fan from the first day it premiered. I watched that show all the way to the end, and I loved it. Loved the show the whole run through. And Matthew Perry, Chandler was, like you said, most people's favorite character on that show.
I think he was just the most relatable character.
He was the most relatable. And actually, who was I watching? I was watching Real Rejects, Greg Alba talking about Matthew Perry's passing. And he was talking about how he kind of got his whole, sense of humor from him, his style of comedy, that kind of sarcastic thing. And I realized I did the exact same thing.
I think most people who were around that time I think all of us have had a Chandler moment, or have tried to, when you're in a situation that's awkward, you don't know how to act, you be Chandler.
Yeah, no, my whole sense of humor is pretty much founded in Chandlerisms. For a while, back in the days when Friends and I was dressing like him in the bowling shirts and all that kind of stuff, it was a weird time. But we obviously love Friends. But there were so many other things. That's the first place I'd heard of him. He had been in things before that, which I probably saw some of, but didn't know who he was.
I think it was Growing Pains. I think is where I first saw him, but I didn't know him.
Yeah, he had bit parts in other series and things like that. But that's the first place most people heard of him, and I loved him in that. But then, pretty much immediately, within a couple of years of that breaking out with Friends, obviously, kind of all started getting their film careers. And his was one of the ones I had the most hope for, because one of his first ones out of the gate was Fools Rush In, which I love. I know you love as well.
And we talked about it on the show. I believe it was for the Valentine's Day episode.
I believe it was.
Yeah.
Because it came out Valentine's weekend. I remember because I saw it alone in a theater with a bunch of couples. It was pretty pathetic.
I'm here for Matthew Perry, not Salma Hayek. Trust me.
No, I was there for Salma Hayek.
Obviously.
But Fools Rush In was obviously the big one. His films from there on out, most of them were not great. I know you liked a couple of them more than I did.
I loved 3 to Tango. I loved the whole 9 yards, not whole 10 yards, but I did love whole 9 yards and 3 to Tango.
And then of course we talked about also on the show 17 Again.
Yep, 17 Again.
He's done other ones, but where he really shined for me is outside of Friends. His TV career outside of Friends, post Friends, I thought was great, and every single show he made got canceled. Because I watched Studio 60 on Sunset Strip, an Aaron Sorkin show with him and Bradley Whitford. Great show.
Fantastic show.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Mr. Sunshine,
Was great.
another great show. It had him and I think it was Allison Janney was on that. A bunch of other people. That one was really fun. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. That lasted one season. Go On was the next one he did. That was
Yep.
another great show. I loved that he was on. And then I didn't watch it, but you watched The Odd Couple.
Yeah, I enjoyed The Odd Couple for what it was, which was Matthew Perry and fuck, I'm blanking on the other guy's name from
Thomas Lennon.
911. Huh?
Thomas Lennon.
Yes, Thomas Lennon. The show itself wasn't funny or that good, but I liked watching those two. The show around them wasn't anything real special. It lasted 2 seasons.
Because it was more like your standard sitcom, so that one lasted longer.
It was. It didn't do anything to kind of push the needle, but it was just like, you know what? Thomas Lennon's cooking like the straight-laced kooky guy, and Matthew Perry's basically kind of playing almost the Joey, which was weird because he was Chandler, but he was a jock kind of guy. So he was a Joey Chandler combo, and I just love watching Matthew Perry. It's one of those things where and his whole alcoholism and stuff was not hidden. He was very much out in the open about that. But it was one of those it's kind of like with Robin Williams, obviously different scenario to a point where his comedy helped so many people because with Robin, it was loud and flamboyant and laugh through the tears, smile through the frowns, and just try to make everything lively and bright and colorful and happy. Whereas Matt was be snarky, sarcastic, kind of a prick, but lovable to the point where you're like,
totally relatable.
What's that?
I'm totally relatable.
Exactly. So it's like, I'm an asshole, but you laughed and you love me. And having those two worlds, I dare anyone in a bad, sad mood to watch anything Robin Williams and Matthew Perry and not chuckle or smirk through anything that they do. Because whether it was something as Chandler, which thousands upon thousands of quotes for Chandler I have used through my life, because there's so many relatable moments that you just immediately pop a Chandler Bing-ism into your head, to just his mannerisms. I don't know how many times I've done the whoopah to somebody. It's just, I loved this man so much. And most of it was through Friends, because Friends is always on TV. You put it on TBS or Nickelodeon now or something, you're gonna find Friends on TV at some point throughout the day. And there would be times in the day where I'm just in a shitty mood and I'm just flipping through the channels and I see Friends and I'll just put it on because it's home to me. Now, a lot of people now are like, oh, Friends is shut the fuck up. But it's exactly. But to us, it was these characters and Chandler mainly. And I love that his character, because he was just like the weird best friend. And his character grew and grew and grew to become almost one of the main, he was a main character throughout, but he was a main, but he was like over here. And then through the series, he was getting higher and higher and higher in terms of character and stuff like that. And like I said, of everyone's careers, his was the one that I thought was going to reach the top end, which ended up being Aniston, but even then not that high. But every time he was coming out with something, you would watch a trailer and Courtney Cox or Aniston or Matt LeBlanc would pop up and be like, oh, cool. You see Matthew Perry pop up, you go, ooh, Matthew Perry. Yes. Because he just made you feel something every time. And it sucks. It sucks that he's gone. I literally was sitting watching TV with my girlfriend and I got a text and someone texted me like, hey, Matthew Perry died. They just announced it. I'm like, and every time someone sends me that, I go, my first thought is, bullshit, where'd you read it? Because I don't know how many times I get that and I go and I'm like, that's fake. But then as soon as I went and looked, it was everywhere within 15 minutes.
Yeah, and I was walking, I was in a store, I think a bookstore, I was with my wife, and she also goes, I think Matthew Perry died. And I'm like, what? And so I looked it up, and sure enough, he did. And literally in the next 10 minutes, as I was walking around the store, I saw people looking up and calling their friends, Matthew Perry's dead. Matthew, and I was like, whoa.
I mean, like, because normally for me, I'm maybe a handful, if that, of actors or athletes because of my sports background with pro wrestling and stuff like that. There's maybe been a handful of people that I've found pass away that actually, like, there's like, oh man, that sucks, and then there's like, fuck, like that actually, like Robin Williams was one, Macho Man Randy Savage was another one for me. Um, there's another person, I'm not going to say his name because of what ended up happening down the road, but at that moment, I was very upset. Now you can't mention him without causing everyone to lose their shit. But so I'm not going to say it. But Matthew Perry, when I found out, I was really like, this actually hurts. Like, I actually am like really like upset. Like, I'm not gonna cry or anything, but it's like my whole demeanor just went. And I messaged you right after. I was like, dude, fucking Matthew Perry died, and I was in a funk the rest of the night. Like, it wasn't like but I was just like, I was like, I want to watch something Matthew Perry, but then I was like, I kind of also don't, because I don't want to just like, I want to watch him, but I also like don't want. I kind of just almost wanted to like not think about it.
Well, I wanted to, but I ended up not because I made a huge mistake because I thought I want to watch something Matthew Perry. I'm like, well, let's see if there's something I haven't watched of his. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? I never watched the whole 10 yards because I was a huge fan of the 9. But I'm like,
There's a reason why.
I've never watched it. But I'm like, it's got Matthew Perry, plus it's got Bruce Willis, who is retired from acting, obviously, because he's going through his own issues and stuff like that. So I'm like, you know what? It'll be a twofer. I can watch this movie. I got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna watch this.
Whole 9 yards is the good one. Whole 10 yards, they were all forced to do that because it made money. No one wanted to be there for that one. But I digress. We wanted to say our piece for that. He's an actor that we both appreciated. We both love. We're eventually gonna do this show. I don't know how the hell we're gonna do it. We both said it. We're gonna do a show where it's just gonna be, what actors and actresses do we love and appreciate on this channel? Like Matthew Perry, Ben Foster, the list goes on and on. We're eventually
the ones that don't get all the attention,
Exactly. We're gonna eventually write them all down, and we're gonna have like an appreciation show for these actors and actresses. Matthew Perry was 1,000% on that list, and he was definitely going to be talked about on that show. And we were both very mad at ourselves that we did not talk about him last week. So we needed to get that out of the way right away. He will be missed. He'll live on forever. I mean, and there was a quote saying, he goes, I know when I leave, everyone's going to think of Friends and Chandler Bing. He's like, but I want them to remember me for all the good I did with alcoholism, sobriety, his foundations, and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, I know that's not going to happen. He goes, I know everyone's going to, think of Friends and Chandler. He goes, and I love that. I appreciate that. He's like, but I would hope that people would also think about me for this.
That's why I love that. I mean, obviously it's horrible that he had to pass, but I love the fact that he managed to like get his memoirs and all that kind of stuff out before he passed, because he got to tell his story, both the ups and the downs and the comedy and the drama and everything behind, and especially a lot of it about his addictions, because he was largely painkillers, but also alcoholism and things like that. But he got to kind of tell his story, and from what I've heard, his partner, fiance, whatever she was, has also already started setting up some foundation like in his name to like help. So it's at least it can do some good in the end.
And for anyone who was a fan of Friends, granted you guys probably have seen these already, because if you're a true Friends fan, you have, go out of your way to try to find bloopers, because some of the best moments of Friends was watching Matthew Perry's bloopers, because he consistently always tried to find ways to fuck with the cast, which was sometimes funnier than moments on the show, which is saying something. But
and if you love Matthew Perry, because if you want to see new Matthew Perry you have not seen before, because most of you have not seen it, I would say seek out those other shows. Seek out Studio 60, seek out Go On, seek out Mr. Sunshine, and maybe even Odd Couple. I haven't seen it, so I can't.
And if you guys have not seen the movies Fools Rush In, 3 to Tango, The Whole 9 Yards, 17 again. I'm sure there's maybe one or two more that we're probably missing, but I think those are the main ones. Definitely check those ones out. They're favorites of both of ours in different respects. But yeah, definitely. If you're not a fan of Matthew Perry, watch those. You will become one. I've never met anyone that outright just said, dude, I fucking can't stand Matthew Perry because he was just such a likable dude and funny. Anything else you'd like to add before we move on?
No, I was just double checking the filmography. Yeah, we hit all the major ones. Yeah.
Yeah, there was that one, oh god, what was it? Almost Heroes?
Yeah, we won't talk about that. We
Yeah,
talked about that on the show, didn't we?
What's that?
Did we just talk about that on the show one time?
I think it was a stinker episode. I think
Yeah.
it was a stinker. It's not good, but it wasn't Matthew Perry's fault. The movie's bad. Because wasn't it Chris Farley's last film?
That was Farley, yeah.
Yeah, it was Farley's last film with Perry. It was not their fault. It was just a really shitty film.
Yeah.
But now we're gonna move on to we mentioned this on the last episode. We're jumping back to TV. We're talking a little more about TV, which I'm getting a lot more people asking me if we're gonna talk more about TV stuff. Probably because people are watching more TV shit than they are movies. But I mean, I usually go, well, Brian doesn't watch a lot of TV, but if he watches something that's worthwhile, I mean, we'll talk about it, which we did last episode. And you were behind on some finales, which you have watched. So we're going to run through them real quick. First one, The Fall of House Usher. You were just about to watch the finale. You said you were going to watch it right after we shot. I said I felt, because you were like, I still don't know where everything's going with this. I hope it ties up. And I felt it did. How did you feel about the finale? And granted, we're just going to do this right now. For the next however many minutes when we're talking about these shows, spoiler effect, okay?
Yeah, you use his bookmarks and skip ahead if you don't.
Exactly. Though, I mean, granted, Usher, Gen V, they've been out for past 2 weeks now. Loki was a few days ago. So Loki, I get if you guys would get pissed off at that. But spoiler warning now. We're going to talk about what the hell we want to talk about for this. So, Brian, you finally finished the Fall of House Usher. What did you think of that final episode? Did you feel that it tied everything in? Like, what were your thoughts?
The Fall of the House of Usher. Yes. It did kind of tie it up. I still felt the same way I kind of felt about the whole show. And my wife, who watched it with me, thought the same thing. She's like, I don't really know if I cared about the ending and how the story was going, because it's a little bit out there, but it's supernatural. It's going to be, but it's like I loved all the actors in the show. I love the performances. I love the atmosphere of the show, and I thought it was so well done that it was still an enjoyable experience, even if I didn't really care about the story, and because the whole thing, it got a little weird at the end there. But I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah, it was one of the things where I enjoyed the journey. I didn't need it to be this amazingly. I mean, I still think it was a really well done story, but it's an Edgar Allan Poe story. Like, that's where it was going. That's where we all knew it was going that route. Once we knew that like everyone was going to get killed off, and each episode was a Poe story, it was like, okay, we'll see where this ends, because we know that they're all going to die.
Yeah, and it wasn't until the end we found out why they were all going to die.
Exactly, because that was the whole question. Was like, so who is Carla Gugino's character? Is she the devil? Is she like a crossroads demon? What the fuck is she? She's the Raven. We never got that.
Well, they never really answered. I think you just assume she's some kind of devil or demon or something like that.
Yeah.
They never really quite, put it in words.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just. But I mean, I like that they kind of wrapped up. You find out why everything was happening to them. My wife was so hung up on like, why were they having kids then when they knew the kids were going to die? And it's like, well, they even said they weren't even sure they believed it. They're like, if she really was telling the truth, we don't know. But
yeah, it's the ego thing. Like, we got ourselves here not because of all this other shit, and stuff like that. So like their egotisticalness wasn't going to let them stop them from doing that crap.
And I think it was interesting that you kind of thought like the granddaughter was like the only good one in the family. Like, oh, they're gonna let her live, but no, she's still gonna kill it. She's gonna do it in a nice way.
I even loved that moment because it showed compassion for I'll say the Raven at that point, because she's like, I don't like that I have to do this, but this is literally a part of the deal. This is all the good that is going to happen because of you, so you could be at peace. And even with the way her character is, I think, and even then, I was like, she's like, okay, if all this is good is happening, then I'm fine with it. And she got to just kind of like fall asleep. Nothing brutal happened to her, so I actually almost love the beautifulness of that. That they didn't kind of do anything, because if they had done something cruel to her, like, No, that would have turned everything. I think that would have really hurt the film or the show overall. The whole time, the way my brain works. I'm blanking on the attorney's name that he talks. Who?
Arthur Pym.
No, not Hamill. The guy.
Oh, I remember the character's name. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm blanking. It starts with an R. The whole time I'm like, I hope you're recording this. Like, are you recording this whole conversation? I hope you're recording this whole conversation. And then at the very end, when all this shit happened, I'm like, dude, you have an amazing opportunity for a book or like a movie. Use this. You will be richer upon rich. But he's like, I don't want to be rich off this guy. I was like,
yeah, because you saw your recording, he just threw it down. He's like,
I know, but I was like, you idiot. You could be rich for this.
Dupin was his name.
DuPont or Dupin?
Dupin.
DuPont.
It's spelled like Dupin, but it's pronounced.
That's
like
the only
Dupont.
thing that frustrated me about this whole thing. Is like, dude, you could have like gotten rich off of this shit, and no one would have gotten mad at you for it. You didn't do anything wrong. You were literally just a bystander to a guy telling a story. You know, because the whole time I was like, wouldn't this be the shit if you found out that this was like the movie reenactment of the story, and he was just we were just watching the perform like that, like, and he's just like, I'm the new king kind of thing. But yeah, no, I love how it ended. I love that the house kind of like crumbled and she was just standing over the rubble of it all, and then like how like at the end with the tombstone, how like each thing got put on there. And of course, my is like, someone's gonna steal that. I was like, give that 30 minutes. Someone's gonna come and going, I'll take those emeralds. I'll take this. I'll take this. Because no one's not gonna touch that shit. I mean, let's be real. But yeah, I thought it was incredibly well done. You said you only watched this in Hill House, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I've watched Midnight Mass or Midnight Club or Bay.
Bly Manor.
Bly Manor.
Bly Manor is.
I think I watched the first episode or two of Bly Manor, and I was a little bored, so I didn't watch.
Well, I'll give you this much. Bly Manor is much more like a gothic romantic love story.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to kind of be in the mood for it. It's still well done, but coming off Hill House, it's like, oh, well, this was kind of a letdown. But if you watch it not with that thought process, it's actually very well done.
I really like most everything Mike Flanagan has done. I think he's a great director. But it was just like that one. I think I didn't watch it because it was a different tone to it.
Yeah.
Midnight Mass seemed to have a little more religious angle to it. So I wasn't.
Midnight Mass is 100% a religious thing. It's a small fisherman's town, like in Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to give away what it is unless you already know what it is. The thing in the story. The creature, monster, what have you. But it's very much what?
No, go ahead.
Okay. It's very much a religious thing where the town gets super overly religious and you're either with them or you're against them kind of thing, which I hate those kinds of stories, but it's incredibly well acted. And I think when I watched, I was like, you know what? If it wasn't so overly religious, this would almost be right on par with Hill House, but I can't. That's like the one reason why I hate The Fucking Mist. Is because of is it Marcia Gay Harden?
Yeah.
Her character ruins that film for me because of that. That it's like I can't watch that movie because I hate her character so much, which you're supposed to, but I don't want to hate a character so much to the point where I don't want to watch that movie because I don't want to watch. You want to love to hate a character. You don't want to hate a character so much that you despise the movie because of that character. And Midnight Mass, it doesn't get to that point, but it gets fucking close.
Mm-hmm.
Visually, it looks great. It's acted really
I'm sure
well.
It was. Like
But
I said,
you have that religious tone over the whole fucking film. And Midnight Club is kind of like
more of a teen thing, right?
It's like an Are You Afraid of the Dark kind of thing. Yeah. And that's the one series where I said this probably needed a second season because I felt like the end was not definitive. If anything, rushed to the point where I was like, oh, we're getting a second season of this. Okay. And I was like, wait, no, we're not. And I was like, oh, well, then it feels very incomplete because it's not going to get a second season. But I mean, it was still good. But I would put Usher and Midnight Mass are like right here. And then Hill House is still well above. And then Bly Manor and Midnight Club are here. But even then, they're it's like how we say with MCU. they're the bottom two, but compared to a lot of shows, they're still better than most. They're the bottom of Flanagan, but compared to others, they're above a lot.
Yeah.
So going now to Gen V. Now, do you agree? I said this, and like you looked confused because you didn't know. And I said that there's a warning that was issued at the start of this episode, and I was like, "Oh, that's a weird warning." It was the campus shooting thing.
Oh,
And it was like, "Hey, this has this warning. This episode has campus violence. Be warned." And I was like, well, I mean, it's a superhero campus. They already have been doing that shit. And then you watch it, you're like, okay, I get it. I get it.
They put these kind of warnings on episodes of all TV shows now, just because people are oversensitive about everything. Like the first one, I think had a warning about it, depictions of suicide and thoughts of suicide.
It did.
Which is saying that right here, I've demonetized this. Not that we were monetizing.
Not that we're getting paid anyway.
But they put those kind of warnings and everything. So I honestly didn't even notice the warning. I just ignored it.
Well, because like I noticed that and I was like, all right. And then I'm watching. I'm like, based off of certain scenes, I'm like, I get it. I don't care. But I mean, it's like but what did you think of the finale? Oh, you didn't like it because you're.
Well, no. I thought it was as good as the rest of the show. I just didn't. It didn't feel like a finale. I get to the end, I'm like, oh, just now I just feel like I'm just waiting for the next episode. It didn't feel like the finale to me at all. And it's like, I get that it's it's obviously going to have a season 2 and it's going to go on, but like, give us some kind of closure at the end of a season. Don't just be like, oh, and wait till next. Well, I was going to say next year,
no,
probably
2 years, probably 2 years
before we see any more of it. Because now they have to alternate with Boys too, and Boys has been delayed because of strikes and things.
But they did come out with posters this week saying that it is coming out next year. So
yay, they've confirmed it coming out next year. Awesome.
Well, it is November. It's not going to come out in the next 2 months.
It is, but it's just still disappointing. But anyway, but no, I mean, I liked the show. I liked the finale episode as much as any other episodes. It just didn't stand out to me like I thought. The finale would be like this culmination of it. And while it did have kind of some big action scenes and things, I was like, but can't you do something more? So, but I don't want to sound like I'm negative on it because I enjoyed the show all the way through.
When I finished watching it, because like I said, I couldn't talk to anyone about it because everyone that I talked to wasn't watching it, or they were waiting because they were behind on The Boys, like you. And my girlfriend still hasn't even finished season 3 of The Boys, so she couldn't watch. I always had to wait for her to go to sleep so I could watch it without her seeing anything. Because I know if she watched a frame of it, she'd be watching. Like, no, you can't watch this yet. As I knock people down, I was like, you can't, you can't watch this yet. You haven't finished Boys season 3. But I was like, when it ended, I was like, no, you can't end it that way. Like, you can't make me wait 2 years for this ending. Which I feel like what's going to happen based off of how we saw in like the post-credit scene. I feel like we're going to see them at probably the end of Boys season 4. I feel like Butcher is like going to save them or find them at the end of season 4. And then like, they're going to join the Boys. Like I'm that's where my brain's going. I don't know how it's going to work.
It feels like they're implying that they're going to be crossing over kind of like that. Yeah. I mean, I'm not expecting them to be like, teaming up with them for the whole season or anything, but it's like, can they really wait till the end of the season when we've seen him there now? Can they just be like, it's either that
go
back in time? How's that work?
Yeah, it's that or that Butcher scene is going to be at the end of Boys season 4, and then Gen V season 2 is him saving them then, and then it's like, okay, well, it's not really Gen V then, it's more just Boys season 4/B, kind of like when Mandalorian jumped into Book of Boba Fett. I was like, well, this isn't Boba Fett's show anymore, this is Mandalorian. But yeah, and then like I think I said this, I was like, I thought the action and the set pieces that we got were really well done, especially for what they were trying to sell. Homelander's appearance was as asshole as ever because he's so fucking good at making you hate him. Like I said, good kind of hate. You love to hate Homelander. But I wish there was more character moments because it's like we see Emma and she somehow was able to shrink herself because she felt small. But then the next time we see her, she got captured. And it's like, wait, how did Emma get caught? Like, she was alone in the theater, and next time we see her, she's caught with everyone. I was like, wait, we're missing scenes here. And so like I felt like there were character scenes that we needed more of in the finale instead of just chaos. While I loved the chaos, I felt like there were things that still needed to be added to
Well,
it
that's what
to
this
make it more
series did so
fuller.
well, is it balanced the action scenes and the, you know, over the top, you know, grossness and stuff. They balance that so well with the characters and the relationships and things like that. We were talking about it last week.
Yeah.
And I think in this last one, it kind of decided, okay, we've had enough of that for now. Now we just need to have, you know, spectacle for our finale. And so I mean, while we would have liked to have more of that, like I said, I didn't dislike the episode at all. I still enjoyed it. I just kind of felt like, you know, finale, you need to kind of give us something more.
Yeah, overall, phenomenal season. Phenomenal sophomore or freshman season, which we've had many shows like that where they have a fantastic freshman season and then their second season doesn't ever match.
Or they get canceled before we get a second season because
I think The Boys is like one of those things that Amazon, like Marvel's Mrs. Maisel and now Invincible, where it's like you're not getting canceled. It's like, if anything, we're gonna oversaturate the shit out of you to the point where no one wants to watch.
Walking Dead. Sorry.
I still, as much as I have defended that show to you over the last few years, I have not watched the final season of Walking Dead. I have not watched this last 2 seasons of Fear. I have not watched Dead City. I have not watched Daryl Dixon. So I
didn't realize half of these spin-offs had started yet, and they're like, "Oh,
they're already finished."
Okay,
they haven't. It's not that they're done already. They've already passed.
Yeah.
Now, when I know they're bringing Rick back, that's what'll get me back into watching it.
See, he was the person I least cared about in the entire show. But okay, now we're getting tangent anyway.
He's the main guy. But anyway, so Gen V. Now let's get to Loki. We talked a little bit about Loki last week. We talked about how we've liked this season. But we were really intrigued to see where this was going to go. What were your thoughts of the finale?
I was not a big fan of the finale,
really?
Honestly. Well, because like I said, I've said last week, and my feelings continue into this episode, where I like the actors and I like some of the characters and things like that, but it's like I just didn't really care where the story was going, and where it ended up here is like this last episode. I was kind of confused on what was happening, and then I realized I don't even care what's happening. I just wanted it to kind of end, because I mean, I've not loved the show even in season 1. There were things about it I liked and things about it I didn't. We got in season 2, and it's like, honestly, if there's a season 3, I don't know if I'll watch it. I don't think there will be, because the way it ended, it kind of feels like
if it has a very definitive
right. I mean, it feels like it could connect to other projects and movies and things, but I think this is the end of the Loki series, which I'm happy about. But because, like I said, at the end, I was just kind of like, okay, sure, I guess whatever's happening here, I'm fine with it. But I don't know, the whole series from the beginning, like I didn't like the 70s aesthetic that it had to it. I didn't like some of the main characters they chose to focus on, like female Loki. What's your name? Thank you, Sylvie.
Last week I couldn't remember her name, and
this week I can remember it. But like, I didn't care about her, which I kind of glad they kind of sidelined her for much of the season, because I felt like she was going to be a main character. So I mean, like I said, the finale, I kind of felt the same way as did the rest of the series, which is like, I don't regret watching it. I don't know if I care to see anymore.
I loved it. Because I remember watching Loki season 1. I was like, I loved how it started. I love I think I said this in a post, because it was one of those like, oh, Facebook remembers this, and I literally wrote, I could just watch Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston just sit and talk for hours, because I just loved watching Mobius and Loki just bicker back and forth while eating pie. I loved those conversations, and I loved how the season basically was structured, because I mean, a lot of people, we're literally right where we left, where we stand. I go, yes and no. I mean, if we're looking at time, maybe, well, for Loki, centuries have passed, but for everyone else, maybe a week has passed since season 1, because everything was very much happening right then and there. But I felt like we got what we needed at a Mobius. Is it Mobius or Morbius?
Mobius.
Mobius.
Morbius is
Okay.
Jared Leto.
Exactly. I was like, why? I kept saying it. It sounded wrong in my head. I liked where we got with Mobius, where he got to have his little moment, where he got to go see what his life was like and kind of go from there. Sylvie's kind of just going off to whatever the fuck she wants. I agree. I didn't really care about the female Loki aspect of it, mainly because they tried to make a romantic relationship. You could have just had her be a badass and just kind of be there, but having this like I'm in love with you kind of thing, I was like, Loki, you don't need a just be Loki kind of thing. I love that we were actually able to have some humor with it, where he basically was just kind of like, hey, Victor Timely, go out there, die, go out there, die, go out there, die. You know,
I like that we have to revisit King again too.
Exactly. And then once we got back to He Who Remains, I was so happy because that is, I think, the best Jonathan Majors is that he, not that he's not having fun as Victor Timely or even when he was King the Conqueror in Quantumania. I loved watching him perform He Who Remains. I loved the finale of season 1 where it was just him and Loki talk. That is to me is always the best parts of Loki, is when Loki is just having straight up philosophical conversations with someone, whether it's Mobius or OB or even, like I said, I love that scene with OB where he's talking about science fiction and he's trying to explain to himself. Like, I love those kind of things. Like, I feel that's the thing that I feel like Loki's the strongest at, is just dialogue, like a Tarantino film. They let the dialogue breathe. They don't try to rush through it. And with the He Who Remains scenes, I fucking could eat that shit all day long. I just love how He Who Remains, because we can't call him Kang technically, how he's just like, oh wait, why don't you do this 1,000 more times until you're actually ready to have a grown-up conversation? Like, I just loved everything about that. And then once again, this story arc for Loki, from where we saw him in Thor through here to get to that end point where all he wanted was a throne, and now he's got the throne, and it's not at all the way he wanted it, but he's now, like he said, glorious purpose and stuff like that. He now has that, and he's at the beginning of time, and
it's like the timekeeper. And some people say they refer to it sometimes in the story, in the books and things, as the keeper of stories, or the god of stories,
something like that. Yeah. And even with this, they could, if they choose to, by him doing this, they effectively could have written out Kang out of the MCU now. They by doing this, because he has now kind of taken reins and controlled the timelines. He has basically could have done a way where they could write Kang, He Who Remains, out of the MCU and safely, because like, yeah, that moment where their presentation is like, oh yeah, Earth 616 had a variant issue, they took care of it, which explains Quantum Mania. And they're like, it seems like we got everything kind of under control. So if they chose to move on from Kang because of the Jonathan Majors situation, Loki was able to do that. So they have the way. I don't, based off of what happens, if he is not guilty and stuff like that, I would love if they continued, because I love Jonathan Majors' performance as Kang. If he is found guilty with what's going on, then Loki just took care of the problem. They took care of it.
Can we also just use this to like end a lot of other stupid multiverse shit? That'd
exactly.
Be awesome.
He can go, hey, you see that stupid celestial thing in the ocean? I'm just gonna take that out and stick it here. You know, and I'm sure you would love Young Avengers to go away, even though I love the ending of Marvel. We're gonna get to that. Actually, no, we'll go right into it. I loved how Loki's finale goes. I think it's finite. I don't see a season 3. Some people think we're gonna get a season 3, but it's like, you can't have Loki season 3 if Loki's just gonna sit on a throne and watch.
That's the whole point. Is it's now kind of, he gets his throne, but it's also kind of his prison. He's
exactly
there.
And he seems happy with where he's at. You're not going to continue the series with Mobius and them. No, it's over. I do wish OB had a better ending though. They just kind of forgot about OB in the finale.
Maybe they can pull OB into another movie or something.
It's like he's just at the TVA and that's it. But I would have done more with OB at the end. But I love the finale. I think if you watch season 1 and season 2 as a whole, I think it's a more well put together story than season 1. And then was it 3 years later we got season 2 or some shit like that? I think I do love, and I think you're happy about this too. They showed behind the scenes stuff when they were shooting this that the Elementals were supposed, or the Eternals, sorry, the Eternals were supposed to be in Loki season 2 because the main chick from Eternals, I'm blanking on her name, they showed her on
Gemma
set.
Chan?
Yes, Gemma Chan. They showed her on set with Loki, filming Loki season 2.
Oh, I never saw that.
I saw it. And I was like, and you're like, God, I was like, actually, no, I was like, they're going to be in season, they're going to be in, and there goes the battery, there goes the lightsabers. I was like, no, I was like, they're going to be in it because I saw shots of her in it. And there is an Eternals Easter egg in it, but it's a blink and you miss it, which is when they're, it's the second episode where they're going to see, what is it, Insaniac or Brad's movie. I'm blanking on what it's called. When they're walking down the street at the movie theater.
Oh yeah, you see Kumail's character.
Yeah, you see Kumail on the poster. So, but like, but yeah, they totally. Gemma Chan never showed up in Loki season 2, and we're both happy for that. Nothing against her, but Eternals, we just want that thing gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed this. I think it served the Loki story a whole lot better because now we got the Loki story of him dying as a hero, trying to save his brother against Thanos and ultimately dying, and basically telling Thanos you're no god. And then we got this other Loki who succeeded in what he always wanted and effectively potentially saving everyone and being the hero that he never thought he could be. So I think this beautifully wrote the Loki character completely off, and he might show up, but I'm honestly okay if we never see Loki again. I think it's a beautiful send-off. Let him go, kind of like now they're talking about this stupid rumor that they're going to bring back Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans and Iron Man. They're going to bring back the Avengers, and it's going to be because of Loki and stuff. It's like, no. I was like, fucking, they had beautiful send-offs. They had beautiful send-offs, which granted, we said that about Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and now we're excited that we're getting him in Deadpool 3.
But see, I don't mind that because we're getting him back in not really the linear timeline of those movies. We're getting back in a Deadpool movie. We're just going to have fun making fun of this stuff. It's not. It's like it's not really in the universe. You're not bringing back a dead character.
At least we hope. He might. We could very well see Deadpool start and him going, "Hey, Wolfie, wake up!" and pulls him off the log and fucking like revives him.
No, he's not
Deadpool,
old,
huh?
Because he's not Old Man Logan now.
Exactly. It's Deadpool. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. But we're gonna go ahead and move on. I recently on the channel you saw my review for the Marvels come up. Where I said it is probably one of the worst MCU films that they've had, but I still had fun watching it, as big of a mess as it was. Brian, you saw it. Like I said, my review's on the channel, but Brian's review is not on the channel. So, Brian, what were your thoughts on the Marvels?
No, I have not seen. You have, as of this recording, you have recorded your review, but have not posted it yet. So I have not seen it. But I chatted a little bit with you about the other night, and I think that we are largely in agreement on this movie, because it's definitely, as I've said, it's definitely a lower tier Marvel movie.
Mm-hmm.
There are still definitely ones that are below it, like Eternals and some others. And I don't hate the movie, but it's definitely on the lower tier of the Marvel films. There's some fun to be had. There's some good action scenes. There's some good, character interplay in the movie, things like that. I do think that the CGI in this movie is super iffy in a lot of places.
And that's what I said in my review. It was always around Captain Marvel too. That I noticed. There was points where it was Captain Marvel like flying to a space door, and it's like you could have just put her on wires. Why did you CG her for that? It just didn't make sense.
But yes, there was that. There was we're in full spoiler mode. The two scenes I fucking hated in this movie. The whole musical planet.
I figured you would love that of all.
I like musicals, and that's something you'd see it totally felt like a scene out of Thor: Love and Thunder. People that complained about Thor: Love and Thunder, they better not be defending this, because it is just as completely pointless and goofy and just being some silly joke for the point of a silly joke. And I just thought it was kind of dumb. And it was just like,
what's funny is I was watching it and I immediately was like, what? And then Brie goes out and I was telling my girlfriend, because she was watching, I was like, Brie can actually sing, so I'm actually really intrigued to see where this goes. And they didn't really, she sang, but they didn't really let her go with it fully, but then like that planet just kind of got like brushed under the fucking rug. Like, what happened? Are they dead? Are they not dead?
I'm pretty sure that her husband was like a famous Chinese actor or something. So it's
Yeah,
probably one
they
of the things like to do
were.
with Transformers and with Iron Man 3 and some other stuff with like, we want to get some foreign box office, so we're going to shove a star in there.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that's what that was all about.
And I'm assuming I'm going to assume the second scene is the baby kittens,
The cats, yeah.
the cats. Which to me, you say that the singing planet was Thor: Love and Thunder. The cats was Guardians of the Galaxy.
The
was
cats was
100%
a little Guardians of the Galaxy, but also I felt kind of very Thor: Love and Thunder to me. Just because it was just like this joke that went on. It did feel a lot like Guardians, I guess. But
Because
it was just
when they're
like,
running around being chased by the kittens getting eaten, and you hear the announcer going, "Let them eat you. It's okay." I'm like, this is Guardians of the
that
Galaxy.
totally felt like Guardians.
1000%.
Yeah. So there were those two scenes that I was not a big fan of. Again, I've seen far worse. I think in my Letterboxd review, I specifically mentioned MODOK, which is the stupidest, worst thing they've ever had in the MCU ever. And then there's
not even MODOK, but MODOK's butt.
Yeah.
Just
well, no, all of MODOK. All of MODOK. I'm not going to let him off the hook for that. And then there's the credit scenes, which one of them is technically pre-credit scene. It's the last scene, but it basically totally feels like a credit scene.
You give me Kate Bishop, I'm happy.
That's just it. I see Kate Bishop. I'm like, I love Kate Bishop. She's one character I want to see come back. But the whole idea of just this young Avengers, let's get all the kid superheroes that we've made and put them all in a movie together. That just makes me.
What's funny about that whole conversation that they had, where she's like, you're a kid, I'm a kid. And she's like, well, I'm technically 23. I was like, well, technically Spider-Man's even younger. So
yeah, she's like, I'm 23 years old, and I'm thinking, yeah, because that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, she's not even young anymore. I mean, half the people that started in the Avengers were in their 20s when they started the Avengers.
Peter's going to high school. Peter's maybe 18, 19 years old. You shouldn't be going to bother Peter. But the problem is that no one knows who Peter is anymore. Yeah. So, yeah. But it was like, but Spider-Man's younger.
But just this whole young Avengers thing, it's like, I kind of hope it doesn't happen. And I think at this point, if it does happen, it's a ways off because Disney's already pulling back on how many projects they're making, and it hasn't been announced yet. And by the time they would get to it, these people wouldn't be young anymore. So hopefully it was just like a one-off joke. Please let it be a one-off joke. Although I do want to see more of Kate Bishop in the MCU. And then there's the
have you warmed up to Miss Marvel now? Because I know you hated the show. Have you warmed up to her?
I liked her. I didn't like the show.
Yeah.
I think she played that character perfectly, where she was this kid who's like kind of a fangirl, and so she was just like happy to be there. Well,
she's female Tom Holland. She's female Peter Parker to a point. Just like when Peter was there in Civil War, he's like, "Ooh, pretty." It's like it's the same thing, but I still enjoyed it.
And she's fangirling out over Captain Marvel the way like Ant-Man does with Captain America.
Yeah.
And so I loved her character, and in this movie I loved all three characters. I think Teyonah Parris was okay, but I think it was she wasn't given a whole lot to do.
Yeah.
But the three of them and their interaction, I really enjoyed. And then we get to the other credit scene, the actual mid-credit scene. My problem with this is I think that it's one of those things like where everyone jumps onto it and reads into it and tries to predict where it's going. Like, this is how they're getting the X-Men into the MCU, and this is going to be a connection they're going to make. And like, not necessarily, because I mean, we just know that she's in this other dimension or universe or whatever, multiverse, where her mother's still alive. So it very well could be the same one we saw in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Well, it's not even her mother.
Yeah, my name is her mother. Where we already know the X-Men existed there because we saw Professor X and stuff. So we know the X-Men were there. So this beast could just be there. We don't know that this is going to be any connection to the X-Men we actually get in the MCU later on. We don't know that will be the Beast that we get. We don't know that Kelsey Grammer will still be voicing Beast.
I hope not. I don't want Kelsey Grammer's Beast.
I hope not. I mean, I really think that they need to do a clean sweep, a clean reboot, not to carry anything over, or else they're just going to confuse people more. And that's my problem with this post-credits. It just teased something and confused people more because they're all like, oh, this is it. This is where they're going. Like, I don't even think they're going to continue this story. I don't think they're going to continue to figure out.
I feel like they will have to continue it to a point so they can get Monica back.
I don't think they need to, because we don't care if Monica comes back, honestly. It's like she sacrificed herself. She gets to be with her mom now. She has her happy ending, basically. Can't we just leave it at that?
But it's not her mother. That's not her mother. She doesn't even know who she is. So I want to see Monica back. I like Tiana Paris as Monica. I would like to see her come back.
I don't know. The MCU is so overstepped as it is, especially with B and C list characters, that I just feel like we don't need another one.
I do think, and I said this in my review, is on paper, if you had told me, yeah, she wakes up and Beast is there, I would have been like, oh my god, yes. But then as I was watching it, I was like, well, I don't like, who's her mother supposed to be? And it's like, I don't recognize the costume and stuff. And I was looking at, like, I was like, oh, it's Kelsey Grammer's Beast. And I was like,
The thing is, it wasn't though. It's Kelsey Grammer was still the voice of it, but it was completely different CG.
oh
And
no,
it was
well,
clearly
yeah,
CG.
because they didn't want to put all the
Yeah.
Grammer wasn't gonna go back and put all that makeup.
It was completely
shit on.
CG, and not, again, it was kind of iffy CG at that.
Yeah, he had like the weird fangled tooth sticking out kind of thing that just looked off. And I was like, at the end of it, I was like, this kind of ranks up there with the Eternals mid-credit scene with the fucking like what was it, Harry Styles and like the fucking like little gnome
Oh
person,
yeah, little
which is
Patton
like
Oswalt thing.
everyone tries to pretend never ever fucking happened.
Well, when this first ended, I actually compared it to the credit scenes from Venom, Let Them Be Carnage, because it just felt so equally desperate. Like, oh, look, we're teasing the next thing in the MCU with the Young Avengers and the X-Men is more important. Watch our credit scenes. And it felt so desperate.
Don't throw that in with the fucking Vulture Michael Keaton shit. That's so not. You're just trying to troll at that point.
I'm not. It felt the same kind of desperation to me, and then it's just like, oh, this is so unnecessary. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed it to an extent. I didn't love it. I put it actually about on par with the first Captain Marvel, which I just rewatched, and I was like, it's not a great film either.
I liked it better than the first one because I actually just had fun watching this, where I didn't really have fun watching the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it is what it is. It's not one I'll revisit a lot, but I'm sure I'll watch it again at some point. But
it
was all right.
And I know you're not a fan of this. And did you watch Dan Merle's review yet?
I watched his non-spoiler one. I didn't watch his full spoiler review. He did.
I didn't know it. It was like a oh shit moment when he pointed that Darben's main battle weapon was the fucking vacuum robot from Spaceballs.
Oh, maybe I didn't watch that. I remember that.
Because her whole thing is stealing the fucking atmosphere from the planet and the water, and it's because her planet's dying. It's like, that's the exact plot of Darth Helmet in Spaceballs. The giant vacuum robot ship sucking all the atmosphere out. And I was just like, son of a bitch. How did the MCU get away with ripping off Spaceballs? That is
fucking... Talk about a movie if you're going to rip off a movie. Come on.
I know you don't like Spaceballs, but like I when he said that, I was like, oh my god, how did I not fucking spot that? Like, damn. But yeah, that's fucking ridiculous. Like, for the prudes are like, what the hell were you guys thinking? Next, like I said, I also shot the review for this. This is out on the channel. Brian has not seen. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but I do want to hear your thoughts on David Fincher's The Killer, because this is a movie that you had been anticipating the entire year for. It was not for me.
Well, it was anticipated for one reason only. That's David Fincher. I mean, I like Michael Fassbender.
Yeah.
And I was curious to see David Fincher's take on a graphic novel, which this is based on, and so I was very curious to see this one. But my bottom line is that David Fincher needs to get away from Netflix. I mean, I know a lot of these directors, like him and like Martin Scorsese with Apple and these places, that's like, as they're all going to these streaming networks that are willing to give them a lot of money up front, and then they don't have to worry about box office performance and things like this. And it's like, because he did Mank, which I'm sure was a well-made movie, but I just didn't care about it. And this one, like I said in my review, is that a David Fincher film is never bad. But I know he's capable of making great films. Some of his best ones. I mean, if you know, a Fight Club and Seven and Zodiac and Social Network, things like this. So that whenever he makes one that's just kind of good, like this one or Gone Girl, or even Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, some of these other ones they're good movies, but they're not what we know that he can make. Yeah. And that's how I felt about this one, because it started out very slow. And I know part of that was supposed to be showing like the monotony of him waiting for his target and things like this. But I think I told you this movie is practically daring you to turn it off. It was just like, okay, is something going to happen? And there were, spurts of action, things like that. And I wasn't looking for an action movie. But it just
I
it
wanted some action outside of one fucking
I don't
scene in
want
the
some action,
movie.
but it is more about character. But even then, it's like I felt like it didn't really end up going anywhere. It was I enjoyed watching it for this David Fincher style and for Michael Fassbender's acting and things like that. And there were some good scenes in it, but for the most part, just kind of like, okay, what's really going on here? And then you get to the end, and it's just like so anticlimactic. It's just like, really, that's our ending? You didn't give us something more than that? And it's just, so I left kind of disappointed by it. I still gave it 3.5 stars out of 5. But most of that, like I said, is for the filmmaking, not so much for the story.
Yeah, like I said, technically, Fincher technically made a very sound movie. It looks great. It sounds great. None of the performances are bad. It's strictly a script and tone that felt it to me. Like no one's bad in this movie. That fight scene in the middle was great. It might be one of. I mean, we have a lot of nominations for Fight of the Year, but that was a really really well done fight. But I felt like it was just the same scene repeated and recycled with a different palette, different actor 4 times. He shows up. They're like, oh my God, it's you. Oh, it wasn't personal. Let me talk philosophically like I'm the smartest person in the room until you get fed up and shoot me in the head. And then rinse, repeat 20 minutes later. Rinse, repeat 20 minutes later. Rinse, repeat. Oh, a fight scene. We're going somewhere different. Nope. Rinse, repeat 20 minutes later again. And then the movie just fucking ends. And I laughed so fucking hard at the beginning because, like I said, of the first 20 minutes, like I messaged you, I was like, I am so fucking bored. And you're like, yeah, like the movie dares you to want to. I go, I'm fighting every urge not to fall asleep, grab my phone, which I technically texted you during it. I was like, I've seen better fucking morning monologues in Dexter and American Psycho, Patrick Bateman, with a pretentious jackass who thinks his shit don't stink and he's the best fucking guy in the world and he's the best assassin, but then he makes the dumbest fucking mistake ever. When he's taking that shot, I'm like, don't take that shot. That's a horrible shot. Oh no, I hit the. Well, no shit, dipshit. Like, what made you think you were gonna make that shot? And so, like, when he does it, I laughed out loud. I was like, you are, because so many times he's like, I'm meticulous, I'm so good, and then he just kept fucking up throughout the movie. This guy isn't even that good. This guy's not good. He's just one of those guys who thinks he's hot shit, and then when it comes time to actually prove it, he fucking fumbles the ball every damn time. I thought it was fucking hilarious in that respect. It still was a 3-star movie for me. Like I said, because of the technical aspect of it. Fincher knows how to shoot films. It just doesn't necessarily mean that it's an enjoyable film, but he definitely knows how to shoot it. Now, we did talk about this movie last week. You got to see it. I have not got to see it because it's not in my theaters. But you got to see It's a Wonderful Knife. What were your thoughts on It's a Wonderful Knife?
It's a Wonderful Life was, again, this seems my theme this week, was movies that were not bad. It was entertaining enough, but it wasn't what it could have been. It wasn't what I expected. If you've seen Totally Killer, I would compare it perfectly to that one. It's another film that wants to go for that Christopher Landon kind of formula, taking a fantasy, and turning into like a horror film. In this case, It's a Wonderful Life, obviously. But it's just like, I don't know. It never quite does everything it could do with it. The acting, Justin Long, I think, is super miscast in this role. And I know he's
I was
not a kid.
hoping he was going to cheese it up. He doesn't cheese it up in a fun way.
Not really. Not because I mean, for most of he's wearing like this, like really fake dentures and doing this really fake smile as the mayor of the town,
Yeah.
and it looks like him doing like a Saturday Night Live character, he just, and like I was saying, even though he's not a kid anymore, he's still just, I can't believe him as the mayor of this town. First of all,
You still see him as dodgeball, as wrenches getting hit in the face on dodgeball.
that or from Galaxy Quest or something, or even Accepted or any of those movies. But I mean, it was entertaining enough. I mean, it's one I'll probably watch, occasionally now and then over the holidays, because I like to watch the traditional holiday movies, things like this. So, I mean, go check it out. It's not something I regret watching, but it just didn't love it like I hoped I would. That's all.
I'll still check it out at some point. I was hoping to catch it somewhere. It's just nowhere around me right now. So like you said, it'll be on digital before I know it. Like I said, you announced to me earlier today that if I really want to torture myself, Fool's Paradise finally got released on Hulu, and I'm going to do it because I want to see Charlie Day's movie.
The difference is I went and see it with high hopes and expectations. You already know that it's going to be painful and unfunny, completely unfunny. So,
but here's what your worry should be: is that you've set the bar so fucking low.
You'd be like,
that I'll go into it. I was like, this wasn't that bad.
No. If you find this to be funny, I'm pretty sure the show is over.
He threatens that all the time, guys. He's not serious. Next, we're going to go to movie news. We didn't really have a whole lot to talk about last week because, of course, in typical fashion for the Movie Crusaders, every time we say, well, nothing's happened yet, and then we put the video on fucking YouTube, and within a day, or in this case, 20 fucking minutes after we did it, news breaks, and then we have to wait to actually talk about it. And in this case, it was the actor strike ending. We were like, oh, there's nothing going on. And then 20 minutes after we finished this, actor strike ended. We're like, well, shit. So
I messaged you saying that in typical fashion, as soon as we said something, 20 minutes later, I think at the time I said an hour later that the strike ended. And then you point out, well, then we should have, talked about that 8 months ago.
Exactly, and then we wouldn't have had all these pushbacks and everything. It ended. I haven't really been keeping up with it as much. Honestly, it wasn't until when the writer's strike ended that I realized, oh wait, the actors are on strike too. I totally forgot about that. I was like, shit. I was like, so we're still not going to get any crap when we're supposed to get it. But I don't know how long it takes for everything to go into effect, or when people are allowed to shoot shit again. I just
they could as of the day they made that announcement, they could start shooting again. Like even they rushed Brie Larson out to try and do a couple talk shows really quick to try and push Marvels. Now that she could talk about it, they had a lot of people immediately trying to promote things that are coming out. Shooting could begin immediately. The problem is now you have all these projects that want to start up again. And now you got to worry about star availability and crews. Maybe crews were already promised other projects that need to be on this project now. And so there's a lot of that, which of course is, I know a lot of them are starting up right away again, some of the major ones, but then that does not change the fact that it still is knocking around a lot more release dates. The main
we've already lost, I think, 3 movies that are supposed to come out next year now to 2025.
Something like that. I've actually
at least three.
And we definitely lost obviously a bunch that were supposed to come out this year that are coming out next year now.
Yeah.
The main one being Deadpool 3 now got moved from May 3rd to July 26th. Not a big deal, but that July 26th spot was for Captain America Brave New World, which has now been bumped all the way to 2025.
Yeah.
This means the only MCU movie, and it's not really MCU, it's the only Marvel movie. Well, I take that back. The only Disney Marvel movie, because there'll be some Sony Spider-Man stuff coming out. The only Disney Marvel movie coming out next year is Deadpool. But then in 2025, we have 4 of them currently scheduled.
We'll have Daredevil, we'll have Echo, we'll have What If Season 2, we'll have plenty
X-Men 97 cartoon.
X-Men 97, exactly. We'll still have plenty of Marvel throughout the year. It just won't be in theaters.
Yeah, and theaters are going to have nothing next year except for Deadpool 3. Then 2025, we have Thunderbolts, Captain America, Fantastic Four, supposedly, and Blade, which I'll believe when I see it.
I mean, I think they're now just finally starting to get that shot again. I mean,
it's not written.
I thought they had already had it written, but they were going to mess with some stuff.
The day before the writers' strike started, they hired a new writer, so they were starting over on the script. Hired a new writer. But then the next day, so he couldn't even work on it.
Okay, I do want to touch one thing. I only read the headline because it sounded so much like an April Fool's joke. But knowing you, I have a feeling you probably read it. The oh god, what's his name? The guy who's doing Fantastic Four.
Adam Shackman.
He said that he is taking elements or inspirations from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when writing Fantastic Four.
I did not read that, but he is a director of many episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I gotta look at this up real. It was a fantastic. I remember seeing it, and I was like, "This has got to be bullshit."
No,
Um,
he's one of the directors who did. That's where he got to start. He did a lot of
it
episodes.
says it says Fantastic Four director reveals how Always Sunny in Philadelphia will influence his Marvel film. So basically, Always Sunny will influence it. Basically saying because he's worked on it, like you said, he's done like 43 episodes of the show. That they bring a unique combination of playfulness and precision, and I think they have to have both of those things in everything that you make. And he wants to
I think
bring
it's
that
more general, like
yeah,
how you work on his how he likes to work with his cast and crew and things like that. I don't think it was like he thinks I'm going to make Fantastic Four like It's Always Sunny, because obviously he's done other things since then. He did WandaVision, didn't he? I believe.
I think he did some of it. Yeah,
I think he did WandaVision. So, it's Matt Shackman. Sorry, not Adam. But so I think that you're going to see. I think that that's a little bit of misleading headline, because it really makes you think, what the heck? They're going to make like It's Always Sunny, but it's just, I think, just in terms of how he works with his cast
if
and
they
crew.
cast Glenn Howard in as Doctor Doom, I'm gonna be so ecstatic. That
Honestly,
are really
Glenn Howard could make a good Reed Richards. Honestly, think about it.
He would. But if he's gonna be Dennis, he has to be Doctor Doom.
No, wait a minute. There's your Fantastic Four. You got him. You could have Mac could be
DeVito as
the Thing. Charlie could be the Human Torch, and then you got
Sue as
B.
And what, Rickety Cricket is Doctor Doom?
There you go.
Fantastic Four.
And his little underlings can be the
McPoyles.
McBoyles, yeah.
McPoyles. If this doesn't happen, they need to make an episode where they spoof Lethal Weapon, where they're spoofing Fantastic Four.
I could totally see them doing that too, since their friend is now directing that. They could, that'd be something.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that so much. That's so much. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, I really don't know what more else to say about this writer strike, other than thank God it's over, so we can finally get some movies out. But just because movies were made doesn't mean we're going to see them anymore, because there was a movie that you and I were very, very excited to see. We talked about it in our anticipated. It was something that we were like, on paper, this doesn't look like it's going to work, but with the cast and everything around it, I'm actually want to see this. But now, apparently, the movie's finished, and it's gotten rave reviews from everyone who has seen it, but now WB has decided we're just going to shelve it for a $30 million tax write-off, and that is Coyote versus ACME. Yeah, you and I talked about this on previous shows, with that this looked like it was going to be fun. I mean, we hadn't seen any trailers for it or anything, but we were anticipating this movie, I think, for 2 years now, at least. And now we know that the movie is finished. This is like a whole Batgirl situation again, except not bad, but like everyone's going, this is great. This is like the best thing since Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And now we're not going to get it. Do you think at some point, because of the backlash people have been saying about this, that maybe we might get it at some point? Or do you think that we will never see this movie?
Well, I don't think we will. The thing is, nothing's been completely confirmed by Warner Brothers. They
also said we were never going to get the Snyder cut, and we fucking did.
They're saying reports. Well, the difference here is that the same thing they did with Batgirl, in that what they did with it. The problem is David Zaslav, this guy from Discovery, when they bought up to Warner Brothers, he came in and he's looking at it as a business. I mean, he needs to save the business. I get it. It's a studio. It is a business. But at the same time, he's looking at things as just, things he can throw out, like little products and things like that. And so they took Batgirl and they said, this is probably going to flop. It looks like crap. We're looking to cut some costs. So they took it as essentially a tax write-off. There's a thing they can do where they can take a project and basically get a tax break on it because they've lost so much money on it. But the thing being, once they've done that, they cannot release it in any way, shape, or form. It's like, if you release it, then you'll have to pay us back those taxes that you got this tax write-off for.
Oh, damn, $30 million. Where are they going to get that money?
Right. Barbie, maybe?
Yeah.
So
got fucking more than enough out of that movie.
So they did that with Batgirl, and it was not as widely reported. But at the same time, they did with the sequel to Scoob. There's an animated movie that being made that also got shelved. It was a Scoob Halloween Haunt or something like that, which I would like to see. I didn't mind Scoob.
I didn't mind Scoob either until they made it a superhero movie.
But we thought that was just like, when we first bought the company, that fine, he wanted to cut some fat, cut some costs, whatever. I didn't agree with it, but I'm like, whatever. And plus, like you said, we heard that it was horrible. As much I like those directors a lot too. The guys did Bad Boys for Life, but everything we heard was that they were horrible. That the movie was horrible. But then now, out of nowhere, like you said, this movie we've been waiting for, because Wile E. Coyote is one of my 2 favorite Looney Tunes characters. They're going to do this live action animated hybrid, like, Roger Rabbit style. We like the cast, with Will Forte and John Cena and a bunch of other people in it. And I remember watching it every time I did like an anticipated or a seasonal preview. I'm like, well, it's on the calendar for this date, but we've heard and seen nothing, so I'm pretty sure it's not coming out. I know what's going on with it. And then like the next season, I'd be like, it's still here on the calendar, but still haven't seen anything. I don't know what's going on with it. And then out of nowhere, there's like, oh, this one's being shelved, even though it's been completed. And I'm like, oh, was this one horrible too? But then they said, no, they did test screenings and they were great ratings on it. People loved it. So I don't know why they chose this one to do it with. I know that they said they're not making things for streaming anymore, which my understanding was this was never meant for streaming anyway, for Max.
It wasn't. It was supposed to be theaters.
But they were acting like it was. And then they said, well, if put it out in theaters, it would also have to pay, it costs this much more in marketing and things like that. And they don't think they'll make it back. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure they would, because A, kids' movies make money. B, even like Space Jam, the new Legacy you made, which was horrible, that made a ton of money. So it's like,
and it would have made more had they not.
And it was on, and it was on HBO Max at the same time. So I'm just so frustrated with them because they've completely shelved the whole character of Pepe Le Pew because of political correctness and consent and all this stuff. It's a cartoon character. Don't get me started on Pepe Le Pew. And my other favorite being Wile E. Coyote, and he gets his own movie. And what do? They shelved this too. And so I'm pretty pissed at Warner Bros. At this point.
Yeah, I read that, and I read the headline like 4 times. So I was like, I was like, am I reading this right? I don't want to like react to this until I understand what this means. I was like, is it canceled? But was the movie not done? And it's like, no, it was done.
It was essentially done. I mean, they might have still had some tweaks to do on it, but it was enough that they were test screening it.
But I mean, it had, like I said, John Cena was on that. That would bring people into it. Will Forte, not a lot, but John Cena there, Looney Tunes. We hadn't seen a trailer for it yet. I mean, it's part of me's hoping, and like I said, a lot of bad shit would have to happen for this to happen. That like someone like Ryan Reynolds gets a copy of this shit and pulls a Deadpool. Where everyone was like, oh, we're not going to make Deadpool because it's not profitable because of, Wolverine X-Men Origins. Like the character's just not going to work. And then Ryan made like a test screening, like a test, like, was it like a 5-10 minute video of it? He sent it out. Everyone was like, no, we're not going to do it. It's not going to make any money. And then Ryan went, oh, oops, sorry, internet. This thing slipped. And
no, Ryan didn't do it.
Ryan didn't do anything. Ryan's completely fucking innocent. And now we're about to get the 3rd Deadpool movie, and it's widely loved by everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, John Cena, no one can see you. Go drop the movie because no one can see John Cena do anything.
Yeah, like you said, I kind of hope that they see this backlash, and like I think this is great publicity for the movie. So if they haven't already gone through with whatever it is they were going to do, they could change their minds maybe.
I'm hoping.
Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's reading about how it got great reviews, and now they're all curious about it.
I haven't seen one person happy about this.
No
one's.
Most people are just pissed off at David Zaslav because he's coming in and just throwing away movies like they're nothing. It's like a lot of people put a lot of work into these things.
Yeah,
like let them be seen.
Are they going to get paid for it? Are they getting paid for the movie that they made? Or
they got paid, I'm sure they got paid for the work they did, but anybody who had like back end deals, like
percentages of sales and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm sure John had that. John's too big of a star now not to have that. But yeah, I remember I drop this to you because had you not?
I had not heard that when you sent it to me.
Yeah, because I got it, and then I was like, I'm gonna send it to Brian because I want Brian to talk to me about it. I did not realize that I was basically breaking the news to you because you immediately sent me an angry emoji. I was like, oh shit, Brian. I figured Brian would know because 9 times out of 10, if I'm sending you something, you already know. And this was the first time, one of the very few times where I actually had to break the news to you, and you were so pissed. And I was like, yeah, I'm right there with you, man. And then you starting to read all these people dropping tweets like, hey, I watched this this is great. I don't know why they're doing this. And I did not see a single person go, yeah, it wasn't good. There's a good reason for it. It's like everyone's like, I don't understand. This is gonna make money. This is gonna be a good movie. Like we even said that with Chippendale Rescue Rangers last year. It was just like they just dropped this thing on Disney Plus. This would have made money if you dropped it in theaters. It was a really good live action animated adaptation. It would have sold. They would have made a profit on it, and they dropped it on Disney Plus. I mean, yay, we got to watch it at home, but we both enjoyed that film. Now you're throwing, Wile E. Coyote, Roadrunner, and all that shit in there. I don't see how this would not have made at least 60 mil, if not more, out of it. I don't know how much it cost to make the movie. I mean, they were saying it's a $30 million write-off. I don't know if that meant that it cost $30 million to make, or if that's just what they're getting for the write-off. But if it was only a $30 million movie, they would have made that. They would have made that easy.
Yeah.
No problem. Drop it in They could have dropped it in September or August or October when nothing was out.
That's the other thing is, like, right now they have no product to put out. All this is getting pushed back. Here's a movie that's basically done. You can put it out and make some money in an empty marketplace.
Exactly. There was nothing out right now. It would have made money just because of out of boredom of no one having anything to go see it. They would have made their money back that way. But
I mean, tell me why you will can this project, but you still released Tom and Jerry. Just saying. Come on,
I didn't hate Tom and Jerry, but Tom and Jerry was bad. But I was like, you know what? It was for a kids movie. Cool. It was not for me and Brian, but I didn't hate it, but it wasn't good either. But I agree. Tom and Jerry got released. Granted, it was on Max, but this
and in theaters.
And in theaters too. But it was also a Max release. But we got Tom and Jerry, but we're not going to get Coyote and Roadrunner. That's just a fucking crime.
Yeah.
I went away from movie news. Granted, we've shot this within like 3 days of our last episode, but there's been a couple trailers. Nothing crazy. I think the biggest trailer release that got dropped was an Inside Out 2 teaser. Now, I loved Inside Out. I think it's actually one of my favorite Pixar films. Brian, I can't remember if you were like or good or what with the first film. Yeah, So you probably didn't give a crap about this.
I haven't watched this trailer.
Basically, Riley's character is entering puberty, so there are more emotions such as anxiety and other ones. Maya Hawke is actually going to be playing anxiety in this, so I was like, "Oh, cool, Maya, great!" I'm glad that she's doing a big picture, even though it's animated. But it's supposed to be added
horny now too.
I think I saw something pop up, but it's Pixar, so they can't.
I'm sure they won't name it that. Yeah,
they can't outright call it horny. But yeah, because it's like she turns 13, and then all of a sudden, like the big like board with everything has all these new colors, and they're like, what is this? And then anxiety's there, and she's like, oh yeah, we wanted to make a big welcome. They go, what do you mean we? And like that's the end of the trailer, and then it like says it starts flashing like 8 different new emotions and shit. So
well, I hope it's not too overstuffed.
I don't think. I think there's like another 4 new ones, one to match each one of the originals. But it flashed like 8 different emotions, but like the poster shows, I think like 4 or 5 new ones. And each of them like look different, like weird and different. But like I said, I love the first one. If this could bring the same kind of emotional weight / fun energy that the first film had, I'm all there for it. That's the one thing that Pixar has, I think, overly done. Not so much in the last year or two, but lately they had been really just kind of doing sequel with the Toy Stories and the Cars and wow, I just went blank after Toy Stories and Cars with sequels. But Pixar,
Monsters Incorporated, and they made a TV show of it.
The Incredibles, which I was so excited for, and it didn't match the first film. That I want Pixar to, but they've been doing original stuff, and it hasn't really been working either. So
they've also been dumping it on Disney Plus.
Exactly, but yeah, it's one of those things where I'm excited to see it, but Pixar lately, I'm trying to remember what the last freaking Pixar movie, what was it, Elemental?
Elemental's the last one, right before that was
which I really liked Elemental. That was the first one I think I've liked since COVID when Onward came out. I have not really enjoyed a Pixar film, well, except for Toy Story 4. I have not enjoyed a Pixar film since then. I mean, Lightyear was good, but it wasn't like great or anything like that. But I'm intrigued to see what we get out of it. I just hope, like you said, they don't overstuff it with whole new characters, that it loses what made Inside Out as good as it was, which, like I said, for you, you thought it was meh, so this probably doesn't matter to you.
I don't mean meh, and to be clear, I don't mean meh as in like I didn't like it. I mean, I thought it was good. I just don't love it like a lot of people do.
Yeah, which that's with most Pixar films for you.
That's most Pixar,
except for like WALL-E, because you fucking loved WALL-E. We both love WALL-E.
There's a few of them. The first few Toy Stories, yeah, not 4, but
well, yeah. Another trailer that came out. This got dropped during, was it like Geek Week on Netflix?
I think everything else we're talking about is part of Netflix Geek Week.
Not everything, but because there's another one.
Okay.
But they dropped Damsel, which the only thing I knew from Damsel is that we kept seeing this one little clip of Millie Bobby Brown looking like a badass warrior princess wielding a sword. We're like, what the hell is this? We finally got a trailer for it. It's called Damsel. It's a teaser.
Yeah, it doesn't really tell us anything. Yeah,
it doesn't really tell us anything, except that she's looking like she's going through some rough times in a fucking cave, and then at the very end, she grabs a sword and decides she's going to fight. I'm a sucker for these kinds of movies, like, you know, this and Willow, and hell, even the Willow TV series on Disney Plus, which most people hated, but I actually enjoyed, or
but nobody can watch now.
Or the Shannara Chronicles, which was a TV show on Spike. I like these kind of movies or shows, and I like Millie Bobby Brown. So I am intrigued by this. I mean, we definitely are going to get creatures in it, because we saw, you know, at least shadows of creatures in the teaser trailer. I'm heating expectations until we get an actual Netflix trailer, which probably won't be until like a month or 3 weeks before it actually gets released, sometime in 2024. But it kind of looked like a female version of Legend to a point, which I'm open to as well. Did you watch this at all?
I did, and like you said, it doesn't really tell you much. It more just kind of gives you a look at her and a kind of look at the kind of the world, but they don't show any of the characters. And there's a lot of action. There's Robin Wright's in this, Angela Bassett's in this, Ray Winstone's in this, a few other people. I don't think the trailer shows anyone else besides her, if I'm not mistaken.
I was more just distracted by the song, because the song was not good in the trailer.
Funny because I was reading the description to this, and I swear it sounded like a sequel to Joey King's The Princess. It's just this time. Listen to this. A dutiful damsel agrees to marry a handsome prince, only to find the royal family has recruited her as a sacrifice to repay an ancient debt. Thrown into a cave with a fire-breathing dragon, she must rely on her wits and will to survive. Tell me this doesn't sound like a sequel to The Princess.
Without the dragon, sure.
It just now she's in Dragon's Lair.
Brian, you got to stop trying to resell The Princess as a watchable thing. You can't even watch it anymore. You got removed from Hulu.
Maybe in my mind this will be canon. This will be the sequel to it.
No, because
I'm honestly not a huge fan of Millie Bobby Brown as an actress. I like Stranger Things. I like some other things that she's been in. Her personally, and with her being like the star of this one, it worries me a little bit. But I mean, the kind of subject matter of it and just the look of it from the trailer and stuff, I'm intrigued. I'm going to check it out.
You didn't like her in Enola Holmes?
You know, the first one I thought was all right. I don't even know if I ever watched the second one.
Second one is fine, but it's not because of her. It's just because the story is just kind of... It's kind of like the second Sherlock with Robert Downey Jr. It's like it tries to go bigger, but if anything, it just kind of dulls it out a little bit. But it has nothing to do with her performance. She's great. She's just as good as she was in the first one, except older. But I like Millie Bobby Brown.
I didn't love her. I thought it was okay.
I like Millie Bobby Brown, but she just, because of Stranger Things and the schedule around it, she hasn't really got to do much outside of like the 2 Godzilla movies, which she really should have only been in the first one. And then, like I said, Enola Holmes, she hasn't really got to do much else. So I mean, hopefully,
curious to see the new season of Stranger Things, just because apparently they still have a little bit of filming left to do on it, and it's like, even just in the season, from the time they started filming to now, these kids have aged like 3 years. So
all their voices, except for Millie, is probably going to be like.
It was already be a problem because it was a season.
It was.
But now
it was
within this season, they will have changed so much. They're gonna have to be doing some computer.
It was a problem just going from season 2 to season 3.
Yeah.
So, they need to get this thing in the can faster because these kids are growing up way too fast. Next, we've got Apple TV is kind of doing their own version of like Band of Brothers. It's called Masters of the Air. It's basically a aerial version of Band of Brothers. The main cast or the main person in it is Austin Butler. Like I said, I watched the trailer. It's from the people who did Band of Brothers and was it the Pacific? So visually, this movie's good. Or this like little miniseries is gonna look great. I don't know if it's something I'm gonna watch. I don't think I've ever even watched all Band of Brothers. I like Austin Butler. It isn't enough to just for him to be in it to sell me on it. A lot of it's gonna tell me is how the aerial fighting is, because if it's good like dog fighting, miniseries, then I'll check it out. If it's more or less like one of those, it's like it's all talk, and then they get in the plane, and then like we get like quick snippets, and then they're back on the ground, and they don't really show much because of budget, then I'm not really gonna care as much. You didn't even know what this was. You're like, what the hell is Masters of the Air?
I had no idea what this was. I didn't know this was coming. Apparently, it also stars Steven Spielberg's son, Sawyer Spielberg.
That must be who the friend is, because like the whole time watching this trailer, I was like, I don't know who the hell this other person is.
Yeah, on the cast, he's second listed after Austin Butler. Oh, Barry Cogan's in it. Okay.
I don't recall seeing him in the trailer.
Well, he's in there somewhere. But I actually liked both the Band of Brothers and the Pacific. So I'll check this one
out. Next, we have 3 trailers of things that we are actively avoiding. Rebel Moon Part 1 came out with a second trailer. Brian and I are both in agreement. We both saw the first trailer. We've seen enough of the movie. We don't want to watch this second trailer because second trailers tend to give away too much shit. We're both going to watch it.
And that's one of the beauty of this being this Netflix show is that normally we try to avoid later trailers that give away too much, but we go to see a movie and things play in front of other movies. This one, unless we actively seek it out to watch it online, we don't have to watch this trailer.
Exactly.
So,
we're not going to get
we're already going to watch the show. Why ruin any of it, right?
Yeah, I think doesn't that come out like the week of Christmas?
I believe so, yeah.
I think so. So we have not watched it. We're not going to discuss this trailer. Like I said, we are hopeful that it's good. But Brian remembers Army of the Dead. Or is it Army of the Dead?
Army of the Dead.
Yeah, which I didn't hate, but Brian really did not like. And I also read something that Zack Snyder said this isn't the same like universe as Army of the Dead. And I was like, what? Why?
I had not read that.
Why even say that? Why is that even necessary to say? Like, just shut the fuck up.
I'm not sure how that works because this.
I don't even know either.
I don't even know. Never mind.
It's like, is it Star Wars? Like, galaxy, like in long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's like, oh, you mean like
Oh, you can tell looking at that first teaser. This movie totally wants to be Star Wars and Dune, both of which apparently he wanted to direct movies for, but then he ended up not. So he's like, well, fine, I'll just make my own then. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued by it, but like I said, not enough to want to see another trailer. I'd rather just go in as cold as I can to the point when we get to its release. I'm not going to remember much of the first trailer. So I'm gonna go.
I don't remember much of it now. Yeah,
exactly. I just remember things that there was these whips that looked like lightsabers. So that like, oh, that's cool, and I can't remember much else of it. And you know what? I'm the better for it, so I can go in with no expectations, and maybe I might like it better that way. Next was the final trailer for Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which I believe comes out. Is it this week?
The 17th. Yeah,
the 17th. Brian and I are also actively avoiding that because every trailer we've seen of this has just kind of made us feel more and more that this is not going to be as good as the movie. It says the entire voice cast is back, but I am hard pressed to say that does not sound like Michael Cera as all as Scott Pilgrim.
It is Michael Cera. He's just 13 years older.
Exactly. It's not going to sound like.
Here's the thing: is I like to. I have the original books of Scott Pilgrim. I obviously love the movie Scott Pilgrim, and so I'm like, well, you know what? I'd like to see this animated version in the style of the original graphic novels. I'd like to see him make this, but my problem is like, it just didn't look very appealing or sound very, and it wasn't very funny. But also, it's like, it seems like it wants to be its own, like a separate story, like a sequel, but at the same time there's a whole lot of scenes that are just scenes from the movie just done over again in animated form. So I'm like,
I just figured that they were just doing the whole story from the comic all from beginning to end. I didn't consider it a sequel. I thought they were just doing the whole fucking thing in animated form.
Well, you think that, but then they gave it a different title. It's called Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, I think, and there are things in the trailer that are in the movie, and there's a lot of things that aren't in the movie. So it's like, well, what are you doing here?
I don't know. I'm going in as blind as I can because everything that I have watched on it has made me not get as excited.
Yeah,
as
I'm going. It's definitely seeing that first trailer, and actually, I think there were 2 short trailers we saw. I've lowered my expectations dramatically. Now I'm going in just hoping it'll be okay.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World is one of my favorite movies ever, and you and I were both so excited when we heard that they were making it animated, and everyone in the cast was coming back. We're like, oh my god, it's gonna be amazing.
The original writer was the one doing it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
The only person not coming back was Edgar Wright, right?
And even he's like producing it.
Yeah, so I mean, he's not directing the anime. Well, I mean, it's animated, but you know what I mean. But it's just, but yeah, like I said, everything I've watched, I'm just like, I'm watching. It's like something's off. And at first, I was like, oh, it's Michael Cera, not sounding like Michael Cera. But it's like, no, it's just like, it's not. It's like that's a big thing, but it also just doesn't. It's not hooking me. Like,
yeah,
and it could just be because we are so over the top in love with the live action version that this just comes off cheap, which sucks because this came first technically. I don't know.
It could be editing of the trailer. Maybe we'll enjoy it when it comes out.
I hope that they made this trailer look shitty as hell, and then we get back into it and we're like, oh my god, this is great. I would love for that to happen. The only other thing, I have not watched this trailer. I don't think you have either, but we both are just like, I mean, we want this, but we don't want this. And that is, there is a Terminator animated show coming out, which we love Terminator. We want more of it. I don't know if we necessarily want it as an anime because neither one of us.
It's not just animated; it's anime style too.
Yeah, it's anime. None of us.
I did watch this trailer because I was like, I had no idea what this was. Like, what is this thing coming out? And I watched it, and there's not even a single frame of so you can see what it looks like. It's just like a title reveal. It's just like an announcement trailer kind of thing. So it doesn't show anything on it. And I really want to see more Terminator, but not in anime form. So
I mean, granted, we might get more of what we actually might want because anime likes to push the limits of shit that we don't normally get to see. But
I also generally hate anime style.
Exactly. I'm not a huge fan of anime. There's nothing wrong with it. I understand the appeal of it. I understand the fans for it and stuff like that. I have just never been a fan of it. It just hasn't been my cup of tea. Just like watching like Pride and Prejudice type films. I've never been something for me. I understand the appeal of it to people, but or same thing with Saw torture porn. I understand the appeal of it.
Or me with movies like Godfather and Goodfellas.
Yeah,
not my thing.
Not my thing. I mean, I if you're gonna make me watch it, I'll watch it. But if I don't like it, don't get fucking mad at me. I told you it wasn't my thing to begin with. Anime is that same way. If this is something that's gonna pop on Netflix, which this was part of the Geek Netflix thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they released a Godzilla animated series that's anime, and I still haven't watched it. Why? Because it's anime, and it's Godzilla. I fucking love Godzilla, and there's like at least 4 or 5 of these things, and I haven't watched them yet because I almost didn't watch Nimona because it looks animated. But I
didn't watch Nimona at first because I didn't. Then until several told me it was really good, I'm like, fine, I'll check it out.
Yeah, and then you talked me into it, and it's like fucking like number 1, number 2 movie of the year. So we might be on the wrong here. We might end up watching it and loving it, much like Scott Pilgrim. But right now, yay for more Terminator, but man, for what it is. And trust me, our most watched video on the channel is literally our Terminator Dark Fate spoiler review for whatever reason we don't know. But maybe we're owed to ourselves to watch this so we can do it on the channel because people demand to listen to us talk about fucking Terminator for some weird ass reason. But yeah, anything else? I think I've covered everything that I think that's happened since we last shot. Anything coming up this weekend for you? I know in terms of movie releases, we've got Hunger Games, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. We got Next Goal Wins, Thanksgiving, Trolls Band Together, Please Don't Destroy the Treasure of Foggy Mountain, Rustin, Saltburn, May, December. We got a bunch of movies. Are there any of those that you're guaranteed checking out this weekend?
Well, this weekend I also did check out Journey to Bethlehem, which is a musical about the Nativity story. which
Why,
because
Brian?
it's a musical and I have to see it. And I actually kind of enjoyed it. It wasn't great. It's put out by Affirm Films, which is one of those faith-based studios. They're the ones who put out the Sound of
Exactly. It's like,
Freedom.
why did you even
Yeah,
make yourself?
and I felt dirty supporting them, honestly. But I was like, I want to see this. And I'm actually glad I did. I enjoyed it. But again, I'm just a sucker for musicals. As far as this week, it's a busy week for me, honestly, because I want to see Thanksgiving. I want to see Next Goal Wins. I want to see Hunger Games. I want to see Holdovers. Please Don't Destroy is going to be on Peacock. That's the one I'm kind of really most curious about. So yeah, I mean, as much as like we said, there's like all the tent poles are kind of gone. There's still a lot of movies coming out, just smaller scale.
And we also got Scott Pilgrim this weekend as well.
Yeah, that was just movies I was talking about. Yeah, so yeah, busy week.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff this weekend. In terms of movies, TV, for me, wrestling stuff, and then I'm also in the mix of holiday season retail working. So I would love to hope that I at least am going to watch either Hunger Games or Next Goal Wins. Probably leaning more towards Hunger Games, to at least get to watch on Thursday night. And if I do, there will be a review sometime this weekend because, like I said in the first episode, it's harder to shoot. It's freaking. We're shooting this at 3:30 a.m. on going into Monday morning because this is the time I had where it was quiet and no one was bothering me. Same thing with my review for the Marvels and the Killer. I would have loved to have shot those on Thursday night, but it's Monday morning early now, and those probably won't come out until Monday night, Tuesday morning. So I got to find the time. So even though we will be seeing these movies Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the reviews might not come out until a little bit later after that. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening this weekend in every facet of entertainment, as well as our personal lives. So when we do get stuff watched, we'll have it on the channel. And if not, Brian and I will definitely be back maybe next week if there's enough to talk about. Who knows? Maybe if we all get a good chunk of these watched, we might just do Movie Crusaders chat about, and we just talk about all these fucking movies. Who knows? But yeah, that's this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, you can follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Like I said, we hope you guys are enjoying this new format where Brian and I just kind of shoot the shit and talk about whatever we want to talk about. If you guys like it, what else would you guys like us to talk about? Post your comments. Is there a particular topic, movie lists or fan casting? Because we love doing that. We haven't done one in a while. I think the last one we did was it Batman or was it Fantastic Four MCU shit? I think it was the Fantastic Four and X-Men, right?
Yeah.
That's the last one we did. So yeah, there's something that you would like Brian and I to try to fan cast. We would do that, or certain topics. Let us know. If it sounds intriguing enough, we might do it. But yeah, until next time, we are the Movie Crusaders. I'm Sean Wasserkreek. That is Brian Michaels. And next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.